It was Isabella who invented the game Dead Nun. Before she moved to St. Cyrus, we had simply played nun. Decked in white pillowcases, we knelt between the beds in Flora MacDonald's spare room until someone guessed which nun we were aping. It was easy enough. Sister Josephine was a characteristically heavy breather, and Sister Mary Benedict blinked in long, slow strokes like a dairy cow. But when Isabella joined our sleepovers, she insisted on the morbid finale. And so, Flora moved the beds apart until 4 girls at a time could lie side by side on the floor. That's when the challenge began. The last girl silent won. The last girl silent was always Isabella. My job was to count Mississippis, partly because pretending to be dead was a terrible jinx, but mostly because I was never actually invited to join. Instead, my place was by the window, where I perched on the sill with what I hoped passed for easygoing cool. Since Flora had once been a Girl Scout, her job was to make sure nobody cheated. Flora claimed she could judge best by standing in front of the door, but I knew it was strictly preventative. Since Mrs. MacDonald was the kind of mom who covered Kleenex boxes and ruffled quilts for modesty. And even though Flora made me say Hail Marys with her after each sleepover, and even though watching girls lying still and being quiet wasn't much of a Friday night, I appreciated that the game gave me a chance to be close to Isabella, to observe how she wrinkled her nose when Sophie LeBaron giggled and spluttered, to cheer her when she rose victorious from the floor, red-faced and clammy, her pulse beating in the hollow of her throat. When Isabella arrived at our high school that year, I never dared to hope we would be friends. The rumors of her malaria had awarded her an irrevocable celebrity even before she enrolled. On her first day, she'd turned up wearing old sneakers as if school regulations were already of no consequence to her. She possessed heavy, quirky good looks, straight, dark eyebrows, full lips, and we immediately recognized her potential for womanly beauty. Her hair was long and black with a wealthy sheen to it, and though the rest of us had been wearing our hair in page boys, I decided then to grow mine out. She had a low voice and moved with a careless confidence we studied with reverence. Mrs. Stockley, the dance teacher, was always telling us to sit like ladies, to cross our ankles like ladies, and occasionally she made us practice gliding up and down the gym with hardback copies of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer balanced on our heads. But Isabella gnawed at her fingernails and crouched on the cafeteria bench with her knees pulled to her chest. She was perpetually jiggling her foot during classes, and as she passed through the corridors, she whistled like a boy. Around her right wrist was a strap of pale skin she said was a tan mark from the hospital bracelet. I realized later it couldn't have been, because surely nobody wears their hospital bracelet to the beach. Isabella's robust constitution took on a mythic quality. Girls began minimizing their coughs and colds, keeping Isabella in the corner of their vision as they stoically refused to complain about strep throat or sinus infections. There was a sudden mad fashion for charity work. Tombolas and bake sales and raffles to auction sunset cruises and Calder mobiles, and all the proceeds going to the African Trust for Tropical Diseases. Never mind that Isabella wasn't actually in Africa when she got malaria. The rumor alone was enough to sustain our guilty frenzy of conspicuous altruism. And over the course of the year, Isabella's infamy had only grown. Samantha Bleeth said she'd seen Isabella diving from the top board at St. Cyrus Country Club. Eleanor Robinson said that while drinking a milkshake at the creamery, she'd seen Isabella pass by, check to see that no one was watching, and kick Mr. Anderson's Scottish Terrier. Flora reported that Isabella's father brought her back a new charm for her bracelet from every country in Europe. I covertly appraised Isabella that year during Mass. The raw fingernails, the charm bracelet tinkling above her not-a-hospital-band tan line. But I understood my role as second-tier acquaintance. I would be allowed close to Isabella at sleepovers, at lacrosse, and during games of Dead Nun. It seemed Selfish to wish for more.